Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'd like to thank the member for Arundel and South Downs for securing this debate. It is an important debate, particularly in light of some of the recent reports from Azerbaijan, Egypt and Crimea. I visited Azerbaijan many times, in particular Baku and Ganja, when I was a member of the Council of Europe's Advisory Council on youth and youth work. I found the young people there very tolerant, progressive, open-looking, and it is often young people that help create change in our societies. It is worrying that the government that these reports of government crackdown. I remember raising reports of government crackdown in Azerbaijan in 2006 at one of my first visits there. So it is reassuring to have the comments from the ambassador, but we need more than just words, and I'm sure my honourable friend, who's the chair of the APPG for Azerbaijan, will follow this up. But we need more than just warm words. We need some concrete action there from the Azeri government. Youth, Mr. Speaker, are often also Madam Deputy Speaker, sorry, are often the predominant group that are cracked down upon. And again, the example in Egypt, where the crackdown was at a pop concert, is an example of where young people, as well as LGBT people, are disproportionately targeted. Targeted for flying a flag. I mean, really, it beggars belief. So, Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker, we cannot just be bystanders. We must be clear that we have a moral duty to speak out for human rights and human rights abuses. For, Madam Deputy Speaker, why is it that in so many countries there are laws against LGBT people? Why in India is there Penal Code 377A? Why in Jamaica Sections 76 and 77 of the Offences of the Person Act, 1861. That date might give us a clue. And in Singapore, the Penal Code 377, the exact same number of the Penal Code in India. Why? Because, of course, they were laws imposed by British colonial rule and British imperialism. It was the imperial law combined by our imposition of an imperial Christian religion at the time, expressed by an imperial English language, that enforced homophobia in so many of our Commonwealth countries that still exist today, often against the practices and the will of the local historical narrative in those countries. Madam Deputy Speaker, study after study shows that it is former British colonies that are more likely to criminalise homosexual acts and more likely than any other former colonial state or former state that was always independent. 57% of states criminalising homosexuality are from a British colonial background. 70%. I will do.
You raised a lot of historic points, which is fine, but will you not agree that now is the opportunity to use some of our long-standing relationships with these countries to improve those LGBT rights and follow our good example?
That's exactly where I'm coming on to. And I'm coming on to that because what I'm trying to say is it is our duty, because we were the ones, historically, that actually imposed some of these laws, to now speak up. We can't just wash our hands and say, oh, well, we're anti-colonialists now, we just let you get on with it. We have a duty, actually, to be proactive in the response. So that's exactly where I'm coming on to, and I think we will agree on this. 70%, of course, of Commonwealth countries have some sort of criminalisation of homosexual acts. And, of course, we have CHOGM here in this country next year, and we need to make sure that we are leading the way. I, in fact, was at the CHOGM event in Sri Lanka and in Malta as an observer, for the Youth Forum. And what I would say was very interesting in both those respects. The young people had a very interesting and detailed discussion around anti-LGBT discrimination. In the discussion, when it was open, in the open plenary, it was touch and go whether we would pass some of the anti-LGBT discrimination clauses that we were trying to get forward in the declaration. When we asked for it to go to a secret ballot, it passed overwhelmingly. When I asked young people from Commonwealth countries why the change later on, they said, because actually we are afraid of our elders, we are afraid of often more established forces in our countries, but we, our friends, our colleagues, other young people in our country, don't see this as an issue, i.e. we don't see LGBT plus people as a problem, and we actually see them as something that are equal and have their human rights respected. I think that is very positive, Madam Deputy Speaker, and is why it is so important that DFID and the Foreign Office continue to support young people in our Commonwealth countries and in other countries around the world in being able to put that argument. Because our role is not to just go in again to these countries and say, oh, well, our old penal code was wrong, reverse it. Our role is to stand shoulder to shoulder with other LGBT activists, brothers and sisters around the world, and to support them. And so that is why it is so important, and my honourable friend mentioned it earlier on, that embassies and DFID have small pots of cash to be able to support our groups on the ground. That is why it's so important that ambassadors know that they will get the backing of the FCO if they put their neck out on the line, on the ground, to support local LGBT groups. I was in Uganda earlier on in the year speaking to some of the LGBT groups there, and they are very thankful of the ongoing support that our High Commission offers them. But one thing they do say is that when then the High Commissioner changes, sometimes you get a slight change of wind, a slight different direction, and that, Madam Deputy Speaker, needs to be something that we are concerned about, and the FCO needs to give clear guidelines to all ambassadors and High Commissioners to make sure they know we have their back. Madam Deputy Speaker, I will try and wrap up and just say that we have now an opportunity to push at CHOGM, but also at the UN, to support people on the ground, and we must not let those opportunities go, whilst also speaking up against countries that do breach human rights abuses. Thank you.